Welcome to Rising Stars, where Miriam Knight, publisher of New Consciousness Review, interviews exciting new voices in the world of progressive and transformational books, films, and ideas, who offer intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us as we celebrate the conscious awakening and explore many expressions of consciousness in action.
Rising Stars. We have a wonderful star with us today. Tom Bird has written 28 books, including several bestsellers, and he is one of the top writing coaches in the country. His books have been featured in every major newspaper in the United States, as well as on major radio and television talk shows, including The Late Show with David Letterman. His authors have also succeeded, more importantly, and in 2014 alone, 21 authors who came through his retreats achieved #1 Amazon bestseller status. Over the years, because of the inside-out spiritual nature of the methods he shares, he has become known by those who have studied under him as a book whisperer, book shaman, or literary midwife. Tom's new book, Right from God, is already a #1 bestseller on Amazon. In it, he claims that the reason so many of us are drawn to write books is because in penning those books, we are given the opportunity to commune directly with God, who urgently desires to bridge the gap between the human side of us and the divine within us. Well, welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Miriam. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the great introduction as well, too.
I am so delighted to have you on the show, Tom, because I would guess that a very large percentage of our listenership has a book kind of buried somewhere deep inside that they have no idea on how to bring out. And you are here to tell us that you have a way to make it happen. Tell us about your book. What do you mean? And the title of your book is Right with a W, then Right with an R, from God, right from God. What do you mean by that?
I think there's a very sacred, secret desire beyond our desires to write books. And that is for God. It's God's way of connecting with us through our books. And quite frankly, Miriam, what I do is I help people to reconnect directly, commune directly back with God through the writing of their books, and their desires to write their books take them there. Now, in regards to the popularity of the desire to write books, according to the New York Times, 81% of Americans feel as if they have a book stuck inside them that they need to get out. I think they're only off by 19%. I've never really met anybody in my life who I've gotten to know who hasn't admitted to me in one way or another that he or she wanted to write a book. And so I think it's a divine rite of passage, Miriam.
It's a very personal thing, and the procedure that you describe in your book makes it even more personal. I mean, it's really deeply pulling inside, and that is very difficult because most of us approach it from the head, this intellectual side. How do you get people to overcome that?
Well, first of all, the reason writing appears to be so difficult to do is because we are trained that educationally, we're trained that writing is an intellectual art form, which it is, but it is also a physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional art form as well, too. So it's actually a holistic art form. So what I do is help people bring out the 4 aspects of themselves, combine them into one effort to write, and then remove the left brain intervention of their inappropriate training so they can connect directly with the book. And the book just flies right through them. And, I've worked with over 85,000 new authors, Miriam. Hundreds of thousands of books have been written through my method. And to be honest with you, I've never taught anyone how to write a book. I've never taught them how to write a book. I've taught them how to connect with the book that was already inside them and to get out of the way and let the book out.
Kind of like Michelangelo, who said that he just takes the excess stone around from the figure already in the rock.
Exactly. The book, one thing we have to realize is that our unworthiness issues don't matter to God. So some of us don't think we're bright enough or talented enough or old enough or young enough or educated enough or not educated enough to be a successful author. Those unworthiness issues don't matter because we don't really create a book, and that's very important for our listeners to hear. We don't create a book, so there's no worthiness necessary. We release a book that's already been written on the other side of life and is waiting there in spirit for us.
Have you always had this kind of spiritual approach to life, or did something happen that made you perceive it?
Something happened that enabled me to have this spiritual perception of life my entire life. I'm the fifth of five children, the youngest by 9 years. My parents were older when I was born, and they were in a very dysfunctional relationship, so they were more concerned about warring with each other than raising me as a child. And so I never transferred my consciousness from the God I knew in the womb to my parents I knew in real life. So I've always had a direct spiritual connection with God. And that's the biggest present my parents gave me. And it came as a result of their dysfunctional relationship.
You know, they do say that we select our parents before we're born. Whether you believe that or not, there seems to be something in that, because the lessons that we learn in our particular childhood environment seem to shape us so profoundly for the life ahead.
I agree completely with that. You know, I felt in my life, at times in my much younger years wondered, how was I born into this family? Because we were so different. But I could see how the paradox of being a family member yet being so different really served me well, especially on a spiritual basis. They gave me everything that I lacked. They gave me compassion. They gave me exposure to feelings that I would not have had. They maintained my true and unadulterated connection to God by not being there for me as a youth.
You know, I have heard other people, I've had other people on the show who have told a similar story of a very traumatic childhood or very deprived childhood that allowed them to survive only because they had this close connection to God, because we all need that emotional sustenance. And if we don't get it from our parents, where do we get it from?
Right. Well, I think that we're all the way through the womb, we're in direct connection with God. And when we're born, physically born, we transfer that connection to God to our parents. We implant it on them. And after seeing that my parents just weren't there emotionally, they didn't have the ability to be there emotionally, I retained my connection with God, and it's made all the difference in my life. And I believe it's made a difference in a lot of other people's lives as well, too. So I don't see myself as being the result of an abusive relationship. I see myself being the result of a blessed relationship that gave me what I needed when I needed it to do what I do with my life.
Mm. And what made you turn to writing as a career?
Well, boy, you know, as far back as I can remember, Miriam, and that would be about the age of 4, writing was all that I wanted to do. I never had any aspirations of being anything else. And in fact, I wanted to write before I knew how to read books. But I loved to be around them, loved the feel of them, loved the smell of them, loved to touch them, loved them just be in my company. They're like old friends, it seemed like. And so I pursued writing as a profession early on. The thing that changed my life was that I tried every conventional method to become a published author that was available. And I was extensive in my research and study. And the more that I studied, Miriam, the more I got away from the success that I craved as an author. And so finally, at the age of 25, I'd hit my wall. And I tried everything I could do to become the author I felt that I already was and knew that I already was. I could feel it in every fiber of my body, my soul. And nothing was working. So I finally broke down. I think I had a mini nervous breakdown one night. And I just fell to my knees and started crying. And I made a promise to God that if God showed me how to become the author I already was, I would spend the rest of my life showing other people what he showed me. And, you know, I think some of the best decisions, the best prayers we make come out of the result of desperation. And I was desperate. I was not a happy camper. I was blessed with a dream, but felt cursed with a dream because I wasn't living it. So long story short, 2 nights later, I woke up in the middle of the night, half in a dream state, half in a waking state. And I was just conscious enough to recollect what was happening in the dream that was appearing before my eyes. And what was happening was I was being shown exactly what I needed to know to become the author I already was, not only publishing-wise, but writing-wise. I put into play what I saw in that dream immediately the next morning. And I was met with instantaneous success. I sold my first book at the age of 25, 4 months later. I tripled my salary from a job that I had, quit the job, and became a full-time author. And I haven't looked back ever since.
Wow. And you have actually made good on your promise to teach that to others. How many thousands did you say?
About 85,000 I've worked with. Yeah, I did. I have to admit, though, I made my promise out of desperation. Initially, I had no aspirations of working with people. In fact, I liked writing because I'm relatively a closet dweller, and I liked my own alone time. And the idea of working personally with people on a public front was not attractive to me. But, I made a claim to God, a promise to God, so I didn't want to screw the big guy over. So, because I didn't want to get screwed over. And my success happened so quickly that I couldn't rely on loss of memory as an excuse for not following through. So I started teaching reluctantly. And in the back of my mind, I was really thinking, when God sees how bad of an instructor I am, he's going to be making deals with me. You never speak to anybody about writing ever again. I'll make it better. And that didn't work out. So I discovered a few things. First of all, I wasn't the only writer in the world. It's just that most people don't admit to being that. My classes started to take off in great extreme and great popularity. And that's terrific.
Well, we'll pick this up. We have to take a break now, but we are speaking with Tom Bird, author of Right from God. Stay with us, and we will be right back.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Speaking with Tom Bird, the book whisperer and author of Right from God. Tom, before the break, we were talking about the process of bringing the students in your classes to a resolution of actually producing a book. Now, you actually get them to produce a book in a weekend. Is that true? How does that happen?
Well, I'm assuming this. I know this has been your case, Miriam, and I'm assuming this is the case for a lot of our listeners. They've been in a situation previously where writing is just poured through them at a rapid rate. That's a result of a divine spiritual connection with the divine. And our job, my job, is specifically at these retreats, is to help people return to that specific state, to stay in that state and allow their books to come out of them. Again, I want to remind everybody that we're talking about books being released and not created. We're releasing books that have already been created. And so the books come out at a very rapid pace for one reason. Number one, they're spiritual in nature, so they don't have to carry around a body. Second reason, because the faster they come out, the less left brain intervention the author will experience. So the book will come out heartfelt. So the average writing speed at one of our writing retreats is 2,500 words per hour. The length of an American adult book is 35,000 words. So you can see it's going to take the author somewhere around 12 to 13 hours to complete his or her book. And so we just help them get in that state, remain in that state, remain in communion with God through that book, allow the book out to come out, and then the book writes itself and finishes itself in that period of time. So actually I could teach these retreats in about a day and a half, Miriam, but we'd like to have them be 3.5 days so we can go into revision and publishing and other topics that authors like to approach during that period of time. And we do have a 97% success rate at our retreats.
Wow. I bet a lot of universities would envy that. So, is there a particular theme that tends to come out, or is it very personal? I mean, are there kind of informational books, funny books, memoirs, or do they all kind of come out, sort of self-revelations?
All great writing comes from the same place. It comes from spirit and comes through the heart. So it doesn't matter what someone writes as long as they write from the heart and from spirit. So we get a wide variety of books in our classes and our retreats. We get children's books, novels, nonfiction books, autobiographies. We get everything. But every book is personally laced with the essence, the ambiance, the soul, and the heart and passion of the author. That's what scares people so much about writing, you see, because every book that you'll write is autobiographical in one way or another because it exposes a very deep, passionate part of yourself that we've been told to hide from the world so we don't become emotionally vulnerable to getting hurt.
It sounds to me like it could be a very healing experience.
Well, if you can imagine sitting in the company of direct communion with God for 2 consecutive days and absorbing every ounce of white light energy that God gives, it can't help but be healing. It's healing and enlightening at the same time. We can't have enlightenment without healing first. We have to bind the wounds and heal the wounds that keep us from opening up. And the more we heal, the more we open up, the more we open up to God, the more we come in direct communion with God. So it's not only healing, it's enlightening. And to be honest with you, Miriam, I've got this down to such a science. I don't even really worry about people writing books in my retreats. What really turns me on is I watch the personal transformations they go through to become the authors and the voices and the souls and the inspirational spokespersons they already are. That's what really turns me on. And the books are just a metaphor for that.
So what percentage of the people who attend your, I think you call it Write Your Bestseller in a Weekend retreat? How many of them actually do finish the book during the weekend?
97%.
Wow.
And the 3% that have not finished in the last 4.5 years finished their books the week after because their books were a little bit longer in length than the norm. You see, once you tap into the divine book that's calling you to write it, it's almost impossible to stop that book from coming out without injuring yourself. So once an author gets in direct connection with that book, and the book gets halfway through, three-quarters of the way through, quarter of the way through, it's impossible to stop that book from coming out. And it's easier to go with the flow than it is to resist it at that point. So the book literally writes itself. And it writes itself so quickly that the author at times knows the general context of what they wrote about, be it a mystery or nonfiction book, but they don't know the inner workings of the book. So when they actually go back and read it for the first time, it's like reading the book for the first time because they don't remember a lot of what they wrote down. So it's actually a very enlightening experience. And they can see in a tangible form, they can see on those pages how wonderful, how beautiful, how inspirational, and how important they are to the world. They can see it right there, just like a mirror reflection that they can no longer hide from. And that's where the enlightenment and the life-changing experiences of writing transpire. Right there, when they can see it and feel it. They can no longer deny their own brilliance.
My goodness. So how many of these have actually achieved bestseller status?
Last year, 21. This year, we've got about 16, but we'll probably have 30 by the end of the year. Just in the last 3 years, we've had, I'd say, 55, 60.
And how do people get them published afterwards? Are they self-published, or do they find publishers?
Well, the new trend, and thank God it's a trend, is to self-publish your book because conventional publishing is basically dead. And to self-publish your book and internationally distribute it yourself, of course, with a lot of assistance. I have a publishing firm called Sojourn Publishing Incorporated, and that's what we do for authors. Mm-hmm. We can actually take an author right from a retreat, have their book published in a few weeks, and have them on a bestseller list within 3 months.
Wow. I mean, most publishers, give you like a 6-month turnaround if they're speedy.
If you're very lucky, yeah. Then they keep the majority of the money. Yeah. Our authors receive 100% of the gross proceeds from their books.
Can somebody make a living as an author?
I have been for the last 32 years, sure. And I have to think if I can, anybody can. Yes, you can. You can. It's not so much belief as much as desire. And that desire leads you beyond the beliefs you have about being a poor author and allows you to be worthy and compensated for just being you and sharing how you feel, whether it be a silly little story or a very deep portrayal of your own life or a nonfiction book. It doesn't matter. You see, Miriam, what the public buys, and they've always bought this, but they're buying it in greater degrees now. What they buy is passion. See, when they read a book, they want to feel something. They want to feel something because when they feel something, whether it's anger, laughter, sadness, anything, any feeling, depression, any feeling that they have makes them feel alive. It reminds them that they are alive. So as long as an author is willing to open up to his or her heart and download that book that's already there and not screw it up through over revising it, they can be a success because that's what people want. They want passion. There has to be a little bit of re-education in the process because innocently, we've been inappropriately trained to be authors in a way that doesn't work. So there has to be some retraining. But that's minimal. And most of the people I work with are so hungry to be that author that they absorb so quickly, like really, really dry sponges, the information I have to offer. And they can, within 2 or 3 hours, they can completely resurrect their efforts as far as authors are concerned. Can you make a living? Yes. Should? Absolutely. To make, on an average, going the self-publishing route, you can make approximately $8 a book. So if you need to make $40,000 a year, you need to sell 5,000 books a year. So can you make it? Yeah, you can. And I think we have a responsibility to ourselves to be honored through the purchases of our books. There's a theory about giving all your books away for free. We read the books that we pay the most for first. And then we eventually get to the ones we don't pay anything for, which means we very rarely ever get to those. So charging for your books is a very important part of the process.
Yeah, it's also honoring your effort. I would guess that the bigger benefit to the author is having that inner voice come out in acknowledging that message that has been bottled up inside. Do you have any experiences to tell us about? You had a number of experiences in your book of people whose lives were changed as a result of writing their book.
Oh, I've seen physical ailments healed. I've seen relationships healed. I've seen careers change. I've seen lives saved as a result of connecting with the divine spirit through the writing of one's book. You see, the divine energy, the divine inspiration is pouring into us at all times. Mm-hmm. If we utilize it and let it out of our bodies and into our lives and the lives around us change. If we do not put it into use, it gets stuck inside of us, and that's where diseases come from, mental illness, depression, all kinds of things, because that divine energy, as beautiful as it is, when it sits around and coagulates, it begins to stink and causes malfunction in our systems, in our soul systems. And so I've seen people come in that said they couldn't write. They could no longer use their arm to write. But they wanted to write a book, and I told them, well, you're going to have to get over this concern of yours to write your book. And within 20 minutes, they were writing beautifully. And the one lady I was referring to, she's written 7 books since, and she came into my retreat debilitated from a car accident, and she had crashed or jammed up her right shoulder, and according to the doctor, she wouldn't be able to write for more than just her name on a check. And I said, well, when she asked me about that, I said, well, the feeling I'm getting, the intuitive feeling, the response I'm getting is that...
Oh, we're going to have to take another break. That's the signal, Tom. But okay. We'll get right back with Tom Bird, author of Right from God, after this message. Stay with us.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Greetings, fellow soul travelers. This is Dr. Amelia Kemp with OMTimes Radio. If you've been stressed mentally or emotionally, then join me on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the From Psychotherapy to Sacred Therapy show, where you'll learn you're not sick, you're sacred. And by aligning with the soul is what makes you whole.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Come heal yourself. What is healing? Healing is nothing but connecting to your all-knowing higher self that already has solutions to all your problems and is always there to guide you. Through this show, we help you to connect with that you are and help you realize the innate potential you have to heal every aspect of your life. So come heal yourself every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with your host, Monica Goyal. Namaste.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we are back speaking with Tom Bird, the author of Right from God. Tom, what is your website?
It's tombird.com, TOMBIRD.com. And I invite all our listeners to visit there. There's a freebie page where I give away a lot of free classes, copies of CDs I've done, books, because this is my ministry, Miriam, and I tithe to my ministry. I tithe one-tenth of my products and services to anyone that cannot afford my services or would like to get to know my services better and not have to pay for them. So that's tombird.com, and I would strongly recommend our listeners visit my freebie page.
I have visited your freebie page, and I found the videos and the books and the downloadable CD absolutely fascinating. So I kind of second that recommendation. You know, it's interesting. I was listening to the commercials during the break, and it's coming at us from all sides, Tom, different ways of connecting with the divine. And what you're providing in your workshops is a way of directing that energy through us and out onto the page so that we can share it with others. It's kind of like getting leverage to get that light out into the world even wider. So, I mean, through all the books and everything, it just seems like such a fantastic form of ministry that you have developed. Are you a happy man? I mean, do you feel that you are in your sweet spot?
I'm at peace, and I'm at peace because I follow the desires of my spirit and go wherever it leads me, whether I feel worthy of going there or not. I'm at peace. And I really feel, Miriam, the biggest benefit, biggest result that my authors receive from the writing of their books is they're finally at peace. I ask each one of my authors at a retreat after they finish their book to have a short conversation with me because I want to ask them a few questions. And one question I always ask them is, how do you feel? Now, going into the retreat, they would be expecting to feel exhilarated once they finish the book. No one's ever exhilarated. They all turn to me and say something along the lines of, I feel really good, you know. I feel connected. I feel at peace. And I believe through peace, anything is possible for a human being. Without peace, I don't feel we have the direct connection with God. And I think peace is a result of a direct manifestation with God. I'm extremely happy. I have the life I want. I've had it for the last 32 years. I get to contribute to life in a very meaningful way, doing something I really enjoy with people I really admire. And I love being a father. I love being a husband. I love being a friend. If I sat back and redesigned my life, my current life, I would redesign along the exact same lines that I'm living it right now. And it comes as a result of my steps that I took to write. I got to tell you, I'd be a very tortured soul if I had not taken the steps to be the writer that I feel I already am. And I feel that's true with everyone that shows up at my retreats too. What they don't understand is that the books that are trying to get out of them will not go away, that they're not that difficult to connect with, and that there's a bigger prize at the end of the race other than just having a written book. It's a transformational experience, and it's transforming them to the peaceful existence that we all deserve.
Well, part of the peace, of course, is having a reliable source of income. I think once that is taken off the table, then people can, release themselves to being creative. So it's kind of a question of cart before the horse. But when you talk about being able to invest in one weekend and get it out there, that makes a totally different equation, because then you can see the result and you can kind of gauge whether this is something that you can take forward.
Well, what I try to do in designing my curriculums, Miriam, is I try to remove any and all excuses that a person may have for not taking my retreats. I made them affordable. I made them convenient. I made them available so they can even attend them remotely. And I made them very efficient time-wise. I mean, frankly, if a person can't take 3.5 days away from their life to write the book, then they're just not ready to take that step as far as I'm concerned. So, all authors are great writers of excuses, and they could write encyclopedias on them, the excuses they've used for the years. And my job is to try to remove those excuses so they finally have to take the step that's best for them.
That's interesting that you say people can take it remotely. How does that work?
We use a system called Zoom, which is an interconference video conferencing system. And so we actually have at our Sedona retreats available, we have cameras available that record the entire retreat and enable that anyone around the world can plug into that retreat and take it live from their remote location. We can take up to 1,000 new authors in remotely through one of our live retreats. And we've had authors from as far away as China, Vietnam, Germany, England, Egypt, France, and Australia take our retreats remotely, and they've performed just as well as the people that were actually taking them live, which I found to be a strange phenomenon. I thought that an author would have to literally physically be at a retreat to do well with it. And I've been proven wrong. The ambiance, the energetic ambiance of the retreats obviously permeates through distance. And so we've had great results with that. We've tested it for the last 2 years. We haven't had any problems at all technically or logistically. So it's going to be a full-time offering starting next year in 2016.
I was going to ask you that because, I was wondering whether being, in a physical community and experiencing it would be more powerful, when two or more are gathered in my name. Yes. So you're saying that that experience actually comes right through the internet.
It does. And it's surprised no one more than me. But we've had just as successful results remotely as we have live. If a person wants to make a career out of writing, I recommend that they try to attend a live one and first, as for the writing of the first book, and they do remote after that. But even if they don't have the ability or wherewithal to get to Sedona, Arizona to attend a live retreat, they can still successfully write their books remotely. So it's amazed even me.
What do they get at the live retreat that gives them that extra edge?
They get more access to me, number one. Number two, they get the actual retreat ambiance. So they'll be in a room with 70 people who they'll feel like family with by the time they leave. And they get the consistent ambiance of being in the retreat environment through the entire weekend. Where our remote students normally do it from the comfort of a living room or a hotel room, and they're kind of sequestered away, the live people that attend our retreats live get the group experience. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest advantage.
What are some of the other books you've written, Tom?
Well, I started out writing books in baseball.
Baseball.
Well, yeah, I happened to go to a good state university in Pennsylvania, and I got a job sight unseen with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And right out of college, I got hired, and we won the World Series my first year. And I made a lot of friends and a lot of contacts in baseball, so I wrote 4 baseball books to start off with, spiritual baseball books, tapping into the inner athlete in all of us, and writing about it from the perspective of these celebrities who I knew very well, who are close friends of mine. I've written novels. I'm just about to release a novel called The Twin Flame that'll be out next spring. And I believe it captures fictionally the experience that so many of us are feeling, drawn to, where we feel like we've got these really great lives and everything seems to be taken care of. Every T seems to be crossed, but there's something missing. And I think that one thing that's missing is that twin flame, conscious twin flame connection that we all seek to find the other half of ourselves. And that's what this book is about.
My goodness, that's such a variety. And do you use that process every time you write a book?
I sure do. It's become my knee-jerk reaction to writing a book. I had to drop everything I learned about writing to accept what the real truth was about how to perform it, and I haven't changed in the last 30 years.
So it's not just one book that most of us have buried, but some of us have multiple books.
Yes. Miriam, I haven't seen an author come through one of my retreats in the last 7 or 8 years who I would categorize as a one-book author. Most of them are through the writing of their first books or removing an inspirational cloth that opens up to a library of books waiting to be released behind it.
Mm. Tell us about that CD that you have on your website that people can download.
Well, an author's, new authors' biggest concerns are their ability to get into the writing, as they call it, to get out of writer's block, get into the writing. I have a free CD on my website on the freebie page. It's called Transitioning Back to the Author You Were Meant to Be, and you can go to my website and download it anytime that you'd like. And the CD has a relaxation technique, 6-minute relaxation track that relaxes you, calms your left brain so you can open up your heart and connect with the divine through your right brain. And then the second track is subliminal by nature, which means it's a collection of rhythmless music. And buried beyond that rhythmless music are some commands such as you can write, you like to write, you're writing now, which enables you to continue with your writing consistently. So the first track, the relaxation track, opens the door for spirit to come through. The subliminal track keeps that door open so spirit can keep coming through the writing of your book. And it cures writer's block immediately. And it's one of the primary focuses of my retreats. I really couldn't teach the retreats I do if I had not put together this CD, which keeps people in that divine state the entire length of the retreat through the subliminal messages which I use.
How amazing. So it's writing right from God. Well, we have been speaking with Tom Bird about his book and his amazing Write Your Bestseller in a Weekend retreats. Tom's website is tombird.com, and you really want to check this out. So we have just one more guest, so I hope you'll stay with us. And Tom, I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Miriam. It's been a pleasure.
Goodbye, Tom.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
And we are back, and I am hoping that we get our next guest, Rebecca Campbell, but we seem to be having some issues in connecting with her. Rebecca is currently in England, and I think there might be static across the pond. So I'm going to try again getting her. Rebecca. And it is ringing. Rebecca is a Hay House author. She's an inspirational and motivational speaker and a grounded intuitive mentor and practical intuitive guide. She guides people to awaken the authentic light within and act on the true callings of her soul, of their soul. Now, she is one of Hay House's freshest voices, particularly Hay House in the UK, and her latest book is called Light is the New Black, a guide to answering your soul's calling and working your light. She was previously an award-winning creative director in advertising, and she co-founded the Spirited Project. And she's been featured in several mainstream publications, such as the Sunday Times Style magazine and Psychology's magazine. We still do not seem to have her on the site. So I think we will simply have to fill this space with I guess some stream of consciousness. One of the things that Rebecca is really focusing on in her book is helping people connect with their intuition in order to live wonderful lives, both personally and professionally. Let me see. Well, we're going to try her again. Okay. So, add Rebecca. Rebecca, are you there now? It says it's ringing. It says she's online. But she doesn't seem to be able to pick up. That is very disappointing. But I'm going to leave it ringing, and I want to get back to Rebecca's message. Intuition is our inner GPS. It's the guidance system that we were talking about earlier with Tom Bird. It is so vitally important to living the life that we were meant to live, and not only that, understanding who we are and where we've come from. When we live our daily lives and we feel the pressures that we kind of absorb from the environment, from the news, we get so dispirited. We may be looking for a relationship. Rebecca, are you with us now?
I am.
Oh, thank heavens. I was just wondering how long I was going to have to tap dance here.
Oh, I see. So, okay. So it's an hour difference for me. So it must have been a daylight saving thing, but I'm here anyway. I thought it was an hour later we were talking, but I'm at my desk and I'm ready to talk to you.
Oh, that is good. Rebecca, I've already introduced you. I've introduced the whole notion of connecting with one's intuition. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your book, Light is the New Black.
So Light is the New Black it's a guidebook for what I call modern day light workers. And as far as I'm concerned, anyone on this call is a modern day light worker, because to me a light worker is anyone who is devoted to answering the call of spirit, right, versus the call of our ego, and who feels that niggle to maybe step forward and devote their life to something bigger. And through the book, it's all about creating the space to really listen to the call of what I call our soul. It's our intuition. It's our spirit. It's that part of us that's connected to that universal wisdom.
And what prompted you to write it?
You know what? Since I was a young teenager, when I had my first awakening, I started scribbling down these thoughts, and it's almost like it was like 17 years later, the book actually happened. So it felt like it was a message that I certainly needed to hear myself. And, you know, I find so many of us when it comes to answering that greater call and, you know, answering what's my purpose, what's my larger calling in life, I often think that the thing that we're here to teach is the thing we most need to learn. And so I really feel with this book, it's like, in a way, I wrote it for others, but it was what my soul needed to hear at the time as well.
Well, that is so much in line with the message of our previous guest, who actually talks about writing a book over a weekend. So
wow.
we might want to connect you two.
I'm envious of that. I'm getting ready to write my next, and I think I need several months. But yeah, I'm open to being surprised and getting it all in a weekend.
Well, his point, and I think your point, is that it's important to connect to your intuition, and it is letting that spirit come through you and onto the page. And if I'm not mistaken, that's exactly what you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I write, I find it the best place for me to write is in nature, surrounding myself with the beauty, and particularly like flowers, trees, and all of that. And I find that in doing that, it's almost like my heart is opened, because when our heart opens, what happens is that our soul and spirit can step forward, and when we're in that space in spirit, that's where we can be inspired. Mm-hmm. You know, that word is in spirit, inspired. There is no coincidence there, you know. And I really feel, I often say to people, you know, follow the invisible trail of the things that light you up. So for me, flowers light me up. And I'm looking in my office now. It's almost like it's a flower den. It's just crazy. But several years ago, like, I had no idea how much flowers lit me up. And then when I was putting literally the last word, and I clicked file and save on my laptop and finished the book, I looked up and I realized I was sitting in the middle of Regent's Park Rose Garden, where I'd written pretty much the whole book, from park bench to park bench to park bench. And it just blew my mind at how, when we truly follow those things that light us up and answer that inner yearning, which is always calling us towards our heart opening, when we give ourselves that and get out of the way, amazing things can happen.
You talk about people who are an undercover light worker. What do you mean by that?
Well, undercover light workers to me are, there is two different types. First of all, there's the ones that are in a serious spiritual closet. They're the ones who are afraid of, you know, being outed for being the hippie, you know, and they're afraid of what people are going to think of their spiritual beliefs. That was certainly me. From a young age, I felt very weird and different from my friends and people around me. And so I very promptly went into a spiritual closet and kept that part of my life. It was very rich, and, you know, I did many courses and trained up in it and all of that. But not everyone in my life knew about it, or knew about it to the extent. And I ended up going into advertising, actually. I knew I wanted to put positive messages out there into the world, and I thought advertising was the perfect example. And I very consciously went into that career as an undercover light worker. And, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. I think undercover light workers are amazing. We need light workers everywhere. But yeah, that's my terminology of an undercover light worker. It's really just someone who is not overtly going and saying, I'm the spiritual teacher, but they're doing the work regardless.
So what is your recommendation to our listeners for turning their light on?
The number one way I would recommend is to carve out a part of your day. Just 5 minutes is enough if that's all you can do. 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever feels good, but make it non-negotiable. So it's like non-negotiable spiritual practice, I call it. So it's like literally this sacred time where you turn your light on every day. Meditation's wonderful. I do a form of meditation called light sourcing, which is on my website. You can download that for free. And it's really just allowing that universal light energy to come down from the heavens above and just replenish and fill you up, because we can't give anything that we don't have. And by showing up to that non-negotiable window of time every day, it really regenerates us and fills up that inner light. And when our inner light's on, then we have so much more to go around, and we can hear our intuition so much more clearly.
Rebecca, what is your website?
It's RebeccaCampbell.me, so RebeccaCampbell.me. And just, it's up the top, you'll see a thing of download my free sourcing meditation.
And you have a free video series that you're offering there, right?
I do, actually, yeah. So that'll be on the same homepage. Just scroll down a little bit. That's it's like 7 really powerful teachings from the book Light is the New Black. Great. So that's available for free for anyone as well.
Thank you, Rebecca Campbell, author of Light is the New Black. Thank you for being with us, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, thank you for listening today, and I hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, do visit New Consciousness Review at ncreview.com for our archive. This is Miriam Knight. Thank you for listening. Many blessings, light and love.